by regular co-presenters Raymondo from the Northeast.
How you doing?
And Andy, fellow Nottingham individual. I think that's the best way to describe it. I've had enough of Nottingham boys.
All right, lads.
So tonight we're going to start with the first segment. We've had a busy night at Les Bell tonight. A couple of interviews that we'll be dropping later on. We might drop you in at the end of the show, or we might not. Depends how we feel. So first topic, boys, is Charlo versus Castano, if you want to be South American about it. Do we think that Charlo lost that fight last weekend? So, Raymondo, we'll come to you first. Give us a breakdown.
Charlo lost that fight, to put it in a nutshell. I scored that fight 115-113 to Castano. Early rounds, Charlo was using his jab, keeping Castano at bay, keeping away from the ropes. There become a point in the fight where Castano started to get the upper hand. Sort of like from round 4 onwards, he definitely won all the mid rounds for me, and that was because he took Charlo's jab away from him. That's how you know a fighter, and Andy will know this because he loves fighters that cut off the ring. That's how you know a fighter's cutting off the ring and doing it well, because his opponent has a back on the ropes and Charlo had no way to go. Castano, people say he's not a big puncher, but what people don't appreciate is, yes, he throws a lot of punches, but he throws a lot of punches with bad intentions. So when he's touching you on your body and he's touching you to the head, you stay hit, you don't move. He's very economical with his punches, because his punches that he's throw, he does land the majority of them. He's not just throwing punches for the sake of throwing punches. This is educated pressure he's saying here. And I don't think Charlo knew what to do. I think Charlo completely underestimated Castano, and I think the general consensus is that Charlo won the last 3 rounds. On my card, I give Castano around 11, because again, he was the effective aggressor in that fight. In that round, he put a lot of educated pressure on Charlo, and he caught Charlo with some clean, heavy shots as well. Don't get me wrong, there were parts in the fight where, particularly in round 2 and round 10, where Charlo rocked Castano with that left hook he's got, and the right hand coming off the top. When he landed the jab, he was throwing the right hand nicely, but he should have jumped on him. He should have capitalized on that, and we didn't see that in Charlo. I think this fight showed me what I've always known about Charlo, that he's not as good as what people are saying he is. For a free belt champion in the weight class, there's still a lot of flaws in his game. He's a good puncher, he's a good power puncher, but for me, he's not the dominant force that people seem to think he is. These American fan base seems to think he is. He's definitely not the fighter that, when people are talking about the Canelo's running from the Charlo boys, that wasn't a performance to indicate that's why Canelo's running from him. I didn't see that in that fight. But what it showed me was just how good of a fighter Castano really is. I said when we were doing the last week show that Castano's a very good fighter. Although I would pick Charlo to win, I wouldn't be surprised if Castano won, because of the tools that he brings. And if anyone can negate Charlo's strengths, it will be Castano. So for me, Charlo did lose, and what the sad thing is, I don't think he's going to get the opportunity of a rematch because of all the different mandatories, but hopefully they can put that aside.
We need to give a shout out to Silvio here, because we brought him in last week, didn't we, to get a bit of an expert view.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely adamant that Charlo was going to lose. And he was proven to be right. He knows his boxing, Silvio, so he might not be watching us just yet, but he'll be on in a bit. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, you're right there, Andy. We've got to give him props. I mean, in the position that the 3 of us know Silvio carries in boxing, the name he has for himself, but also he's got a good eye. He knows a good talent when he sees one.
Yeah.
And he's the one that first brought Brian Castano to our attention when we first had Silvio on the show. Carl asked him, is there any fighters from Central or South America we need to be watching? And that's the guy that he mentioned. I've since gone back and studied Castano, in 2 or 3 fights, and I can see what he likes in him. The only thing for me is fighting Patrick Teixeira from Brazil, even though he was a champion, was very, very different to going in there with Charlo. But
Yeah,
Stanley never looked fierce.
I've looked all over the internet to try and find out what the viewing figures was, and I'd be interested to know what the attendance was in that stadium, but I couldn't find it. To say it was in Charlo's home state, the bits that I did see, it didn't look like there was too many in attendance. Now, I know you got a pandemic going off, but last time I looked, there's allowing in America fans to attend the boxing. So Americans bang on about the Charlo brothers, but A, are they as big as we think they are? Because B, they're definitely not as good as the Americans think they are.
Yeah.
And I don't think the rematch happens, because I think they take Charlo down another path, because I know we've been on other platforms where we won't name them because we don't give free advertising, but they're talking about Charlo being able to change the game plan. Now, Charlo's got a very good coach, I understand that, but you can only work with the product, can't you? So I don't buy this. I think they'll swerve Charlo. I think Charlo will swerve this rematch and go another route. That's my prediction.
I completely agree with you. I can't see Charlo wanting any part of the rematch.
Yeah, I would see either out of the mandatories would get out of the way, and I think it's far easier. I mean, people talk about how good of a boxer Tony Harrison was, but I genuinely believe that Charlo probably thought that Tony Harrison wouldn't hurt him as much as what Castaño did. I think he respected Castaño's power. I've always said that Castaño has he hits hard enough to command respect, and I think Charlo eventually realised that through the fight. So it was an impressive performance by Castaño, and I unfortunately I can't see the rematch happening. Got a comment from Dave Fulton.
Yep, so Dave says, good evening, Dave. Okay, jump on camera if you want, fella. So he puts, I feel Charlo was surprised. Castaño edged it for me. However, I feel Charlo can make adaptations for the rematch. That was a career best fight for Castaño. Can't see him repeating it, lads.
I think he can. I think he can. One thing, people say Castaño fights all one way. Yeah, he does, but he's very effective at how he does it.
Yeah, he is.
You know, in what you've got, what people, you know, I know me and Andy had the debate, and I knew where Andy was coming from, and I agree. Is, you know, you've got your back foot fighters and you've got your come forward fighters. You've got your different styles, but you can still be skillful in your particular style. So I get where Andy was coming from when we had that debate, and I think Castaño is probably, arguably, in my top 5 for inside fighting, and also for being what I would call, what my dad calls a swarmer. But Charlo's not in my top 5. He's not me pound for pound top 10, and most importantly, he's not me top 10 for punches, really, because that's what style he fits in. He's not a boxer per se.
So Ray, so you're managing Charlo then, Ray? You've got your big coat on and your cigar in your mouth. You know, you're walking around. Where do you take Charlo next?
In terms of fight, or
in terms of fight? So let's take Castaño to one side. I don't think he's going to rematch him. So where realistically do you think he's going to fight next?
I think either a mandatory, or I think they may chase that Lubin fight again. I know he's already knocked out Lubin, but Lubin's rebuilt his career since then. I can't see him going up to 160, so I think you remain at light middleweight, because his brother won't go up, so he won't want to go up to his brother's weight and hinder his brother's chances of becoming undisputed in that weight class. So I think he stays there. I think the Lubin fight's there for him. I think I think that's the main fight there for him, really, that you'll want to be looking for, because of, you know, Lubin coming off the impressive win that he recently had. Yeah.
You'll see Cedric's posted a comment. Good evening, Cedric.
Yeah. He said he scored it 116, 112 Castaño. I mean, I had it around less for Castaño and around more for Charlo, but I would agree. It just goes to show, when you've got people giving it to Castaño by 3 and 4 rounds, and it was a draw, fair enough. But we've got to talk a little bit about the scorecards again, even just for 10 seconds. That was never 117, 111 to Charlo, no matter how you see it. Okay,
it's about time.
Yeah,
it's about time that they made these judges accountable. I know Eddie Hearn had a bit of a rant the other day.
Yeah,
it's about time they should be pushed in front of the cameras to at least explain their version of events.
Yeah,
you know, 'cause at least then we could have rather than surmising why he saw the fight like that. We might not agree, but would know what his thoughts were.
Yeah. We will know
time again.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what as well. I don't buy this. He was looking at the fight from another angle to the other two judges. I don't buy that when it's such a wide score like that. You can potentially give it 1 or 2 rounds differently in a close fight if you're looking at the fight from a slightly different angle and you see a shot from a slightly different angle and how it might land or not land. You can see how that could occur, but not such a massive wide margin like that.
Well, he may as well not turned up, he may as well have not turned up.
Well, it stinks, don't it? It stinks. That there's no two ways about it. You can beat around it as much as you like. Someone's greased his palm there, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's frustrating because if you look at the way Castaño fought that fight, I mean, he was on the back foot in the first couple of rounds. Like I said, I give 1-2 to Charlo, but you know, in round 3, Castaño started to take the centre of the ring against Charlo. I mean, how many people have done that? To push Charlo back, but we cut off the ring, and he was using educated pressure. He wasn't just coming forward willy-nilly. It was very educated in the work that he was doing. And when you look at, he did that for about 8 rounds in that fight. I mean, how could you score it anything less? So yeah, I think what Cedric had, I'm a little bit biased. What I had was about the right result, but what 117, 111. I mean, no, that's ridiculous. But
we didn't learn nothing new about Charlo, did we? And did that increase his profile? No. Do I get any more excited about the Charlo brothers? No. Do I think they're elite? No. And you know, if that's who the Americans are hanging their hat on to be the next big thing, I think they're in the spot above her.
Yeah.
Does it tell you a bit about that division, though?
Yeah, it does, and I think it's interesting because had Charlo won that by, say, stoppage within 6, I would have had him in my top 10 because I would have had to because he's undisputed.
Yeah,
but that just kind of shows that just because somebody's picked up a couple of world titles in a weight class, they're not elite. He might be elite at that weight class, but it does tell you, Andy, that 154 pounds. You know, your light middleweight division isn't as strong as of years gone by.
And I would suggest that's why I'd be reluctant to step up.
Yeah.
To be honest. So, anything else on the superstar that is Charlo?
No, let's leave it there.
Okay, so let's move on to topic 2. So this is of great interest to myself, obviously. So obviously the fight on Saturday night, Joyce vs Takem. Weigh happened today, and I've got to admit, Takem looked a bit tetchy. I'm not sure why he's letting the like of Sam Jones get under his skin, but he clearly did. So, Andy, we'll come to you first on this one. Give us a breakdown. How you think it's going to go? There's a lot on the line.
Sam Jones just played his part really well there, hasn't he?
Well, there's a lot on the line for Joyce here, isn't there? A lot on the line for both of them now because the winner of this is going to get a shot at Joshua or, well, Joshua. So Andy, break it down for us.
He's number 2 for the WBO, isn't he? Behind Usyk.
Yeah.
So for me, this is a really, really good step up fight because we had that, and I think you've posted it, haven't you? You broke it down a little when you posted the little chat we had about Joyce.
Yeah.
And the disagreement we had. And this is what I was kind of talking about, this kind of level of fighter. Because Takem's been in there with some cracking fighters. Joshua couldn't put him away.
No.
And is really durable. he's very tough. He's got a come forward style that should really suit Joyce down to the ground, and Joyce should be able to throw that ramrod of a jab that he's got out all night long, and break Takam's heart.
I've got a niggle though, Andy, and I don't need cream for it. My niggle is that people are talking about Joe Joyce making a statement and getting him out there quicker than Joshua and quicker than other fighters, and that's a dangerous thing to put in his head. Because all of a sudden,
that Sam Jones not been saying that, has he?
No, in BT interviews, they've tried to draw a comparison, and that's a dangerous thing to do. Because if I was Joe Joyce, you stick to the game plan, don't you?
For me, because of Joe Joyce's style and because of how hard that jab is of his, I think he breaks Takam's heart, and I think he does stop him. Takam won't want it. Come mid rounds, and he's been punched in the face with that jab 30 or 40 times around.
Yeah,
because he's relentless, Joe. You know, he's got a great engine, and he'll throw it all night long. And Takam's not got that style where he's going to be getting out of the way of it. He's going to be wearing it all night. And
so prediction
time, not going to want it anymore.
Prediction time, then, Andrew.
I think Joe Joyce stops him round 7.
Right. I'm glad you've learned the rules at last, with none of this mid to late and all that bull. Raymondo, no splinters.
No, I mean, I see the fight going the same way as what Andy just said there. I mean, how can you not? You know, I think not just the jab to the head as well. I think you'll go downstairs with Takam. You know, I think Joyce will want to show more of his arsenal. Joyce is known for being. I've always thought Joe Joyce, and I still say it, he's incredibly slow, but he more than makes up with it because he's got such a solid chin for a heavyweight, and he throws quite a lot of punches for a heavyweight as well. He doesn't really have to use his jab. If he was a come forward fighter, you could forgive him. Do you see what I mean? Because he's so strong, his chin's so good, he throws a lot of punches. I think he does hit harder than what people give him credit for. People don't really talk about Joe Joyce as a bit of a puncher. They talk about his other qualities, but as I always say, as you boys know, I always say, the size of these guys, if they hit you clean, you are going to go. So I'm going to go for round 9. I think it'd be a little bit later than what Andy's saying, but I'm going to go for round 9.
Right then, we better move on to our North American contingent. So good evening, Michael.
How you doing, mate?
How's it going, gentlemen? Thank you again for having me.
Now, I hope you're not going to be the only Canadian contingent from tonight after the treatment that I received earlier on in the week. So before we get on to that, give us your breakdown of Joyce versus Takam, and then give us a prediction, young man.
Honestly, I agree with both Ray and Andy. Joyce, I think, is going to be that jab's going to be a big thing for him. I think he's going to come through, and I think he's going to finish him in. And I think it's going to be late rounds, and I believe it's going to be the 8th. I believe the 8th round is where it's going to end. And yes, I think Joyce is really going to show us his arsenal. I think he's going to go downstairs, use the levels, and I think he's going to be, the victor. I think he's going to come through, and that jab is going to be key in this. Takem, yeah, he's that come through, push forward kind of fighter, and I don't think he has the ability to get out of the way of it. And it's just going to lead to more punches followed, and I believe it's just going to come out with a victory. I'm saying 8th round stop.
You were seeing the sidebar that your fellow compatriot Cedric has said that he thinks Takam can tough it out for 12 rounds.
Well, what do you think, Carl? Because bearing in mind, Chisora stopped Takam.
Yeah, I think I think Joe Joyce will just break Takam up. Takam's going to go to the body, isn't it? That's where Takam's going to target.
Yeah.
I think Joe Joyce had better boxing skills than people give him credit for as well. I know you talk about his power. So I think it's going to be a one-sided fight. But I'm not too far different. Whoever went for 9th round, I'm thinking around the 9th round as well. I think it'll be a one-sided fight, and it'll break him up. Too big.
Just on that, back to that comment though, Carl. When you talk about people underrating his boxing ability, this kid, in my opinion, he won Olympic gold. Yeah, if you go back and watch his fight in the
I agree.
in the Olympic finals, he didn't get a silver against Tony Yoka. He beat Tony Yoka.
I think he's penalised, Ray, for his style of fighting. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Just because he's not silky, people then assume that he hasn't got no boxing skill. Well, you've heard me say it before, Ray. I think it's harsh.
Because he's not quick either, is he, Carl?
He's not, but, you know, he's not quick, but he's a very effective boxer. And you hear all the top heavyweights say it when they spar him, that it's a difficult spar.
It's because he's relentless, Carl. He never, ever stops for 12 rounds. He's got the best engine out of any heavyweight boxer in the world.
I do think he's penalised for his style of boxing, though, Andy, from some quarters.
I agree. And I've said it. I think he's slow. I think he's cumbersome. I think people see his punches coming from a mile away. The problem is, you can see his punches coming from a mile away, but when he's throwing 40 or 50 jabs around, with relentless 12 rounds, people can't get away from that for 12 rounds.
Yeah, like I said before, I don't think we've seen the best of Joyce yet either. It's very early. I know his age. He's had to move rapidly. I think he's still almost learning the pro game to some degree.
Takam's kind of turned into a little bit of a gatekeeper as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, if he can't beat Takam convincingly, then he's not as good as I thought he was. And I'll hold my hands up. But I think, like I've said before, I rate Joyce. I see things in him. I look past the style, what some people don't like, and that's fair enough. But I just think this kid's got, well, he's not a kid, but I think he's going to do things. I think he beats Usyk. If he gets hold of Usyk, he'll beat him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But all of a sudden, this fight is a pressure fight. So let's see what he's like under pressure. Because he's not really had this before, has he? All of a sudden, there's that carrot dangling now where go through Takam and you're going to get either Joshua or Usyk. Yeah. You know? So all of a sudden, he's got that bit more weight on his shoulders, and can he handle it? He's going to have to handle it, but can he handle it?
Okay.
So that's where I am on him. So I hope he wins, and I still stand by what I say that it's all wrong for Usyk. I don't think Usyk beats Joshua anyway. So, yeah, that's...
So, okay, so why are you saying that then?
Why am I saying...
Usyk, but you don't think Usyk beats Joshua, so that means he fights Joshua. Does he beat Joshua?
Good question. Depends when it happens, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Can he get another fight in? Because does a unification fight happen with Fury? If that happens, and all of a sudden you've got 2 years to wait on you. Yeah. So I don't know about that one. I'll be brutally honest with you. It's a good call.
The likelihood is, Cole, he'll be waiting 2 years anyway, because Joshua's just going to be getting mandated for that belt. He's got to go through the other managers before he gets a shot.
One thing I would say, he definitely doesn't get outclassed by Joshua. He's definitely not a one-sided affair by any stretch. So,
how would you see that one, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think Joshua won. I think Joshua's very, very different from a Dubois, and he's going to be very, very different from a Takam. He's not going to afford anything like the speed of Joshua's combinations, the physical strength of Anthony Joshua. Joshua's, from the caliber his opponents he's fought, he's going to carry a lot more experience in there. That's going to make a big difference at heavyweight.
Yeah.
And Joyce, for all he's got potential, that's what it is. Joshua, we can still say he's been there, he's done that. Although we still see Joshua is having a lot of improvement to make, he's quite experienced at world level, and I think he'll be too much for Joyce. But the interesting thing is, although we always say that boxing's about timing, we can't leave it too late for Joe Joyce because he is getting on. And we know the heavyweights bloom a little bit later. But my point is, Andy, Joshua, I can still see getting better and better. With Joyce, there will come a point where he just becomes that little bit because he's not going to get any quicker. No. And I do think that there could be somebody out there. He's not going to take everyone's power. He does have a good chin, but there are some, he's not been hit by an Anthony Joshua, a Deontay Wilder yet, and Joshua just may be his kryptonite.
Mike, how do you see it?
Honestly, well, first of all, Usyk Joshua, that's not going to be one-sided at all. It's going to be a good fight, because Usyk does have that ability to come inside and deal some damage on the inside, like we all know he does. But I do think Joshua takes that. With Joshua and Joyce, if that fight happens, I don't know if Joyce has the experience under his belt to be able to dish out and dominate in a fight against Joshua. I think that'd be a tough battle for him, and I think Joshua just has a bit more experience. He's just got he's got more experience. He's been to those championship rounds a lot more. And experience in this game is a lot. Experience in timing, and if Joyce makes it deep into the rounds, Joshua's still going to take it over the end. I think Joshua goes and takes Joyce.
That's quite interesting, Mike. Because I think the longer the fight goes, that's possibly the best chance Joyce has got.
Might have the best choice, yes, but don't forget it comes down to experience in those later rounds, man, and those championship rounds, right? And right now,
there's a lot of unanswered questions, isn't there?
There's a lot of unanswered questions. It's all going to come down to timing. It's all going to come down to, who wins against Usyk Joshua, who wins against his Joyce and Takem. There's all these factors to factor in. But I say if Joyce and Joshua end up standing in the ring together, I think Joshua just has that experience. I think he has more experience, and in the end, the experience is key.
So Cedric says Joyce is already 35, no time to waste. He's got 5 more good years in him. So that's quite an interesting one.
I agree with that because Joyce's style is probably going to allow him. I kind of think a little bit differently to Ray. Ray thinks he might only have a couple of years because his style will deteriorate. I don't think it will because he's not relying on speed. He's not relying on quick movement. That style that he uses could allow him to box into his 40s.
And there's not many miles on the clock.
No. There isn't. But...
What I would say though is he can't go straight from this Takem fight to fight Joshua.
No. And that was the point, Andy. You'd want a couple in between, wouldn't you?
He needs fights like Oscar Rivas, who's got decent movement, throws shots. He's a tough, durable fighter. People of that sort of caliber.
Bergovich.
Yeah.
Big lump.
Yeah, he needs a couple of different styles. He needs people that are going to test his chin, like Ray said. He needs people that are going to take him the distance and ask him questions. And he'll get that at this higher level, which is why the comment that I made last week, I stand by. And that is, until he's been in with these guys, you can't say he's at that level.
Have you seen that Martin Bakoli's going out to the Ukraine to spar with Usyk?
Yeah, I saw Billy Nelson did a little interview. Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of the furore we got when Kessler and George Groves had a spar before Kessler fought Carl Froch. Very interesting. Bakoli going over there, but it's good for Bakoli. He's getting that work in.
And the PR, because he desperately needs that PR, doesn't he?
Yeah. That's why I said it's interesting, because I think that's why he's done it. There's obviously learning in the ring. He's learning off a good fighter, a great cruiserweight, a good fighter. But I think it puts his name out there because Bakoli's desperate. We know he's got talent. He needs to be back in the mix because he's the king right now at a Who Needs Me club.
I mean, Mike, just coming to your point regarding Usyk versus Joshua not being one-sided, me and Ray, I think me and Ray, don't put words in your mouth, Ray, but I think we vaguely agree on this point. Where are you getting the confidence from that Usyk can be able to even live with Joshua?
Just he's fought at heavyweight before, and even though he's small, he has that grinder mentality. Like, he gets in there, he's not afraid to get hit, man, and he can take a beating. You know, he can take it. He's got a chin. He can take the punches. He can take it. I believe that he can get in there and dish it out as long as he stays on the inside. Because you know what?
You know that fight against Derek Chisora?
Yeah.
You know the early rounds in that fight, the way he fought. If that's AJ, I'm telling you now, AJ gets him out of there
fast,
because he was an absolute mess in them first few rounds. Whatever the game plan was, clearly wasn't working.
Yeah, definitely. But let's say he's got time to go back to the drawing board, train. You know, he's got to be working on his game plan. If this is what's going to be coming up in the future for him.
I can see from his social media as well that he keeps taking pictures of the scales to suggest that he's lumping weight on. Well, I'm not sure that's the right strategy either, because that'll make him slower.
Definitely.
So the attributes that served him well in the cruiserweight, you could argue that it's not going to be there in the heavyweight. I just don't get.
It could be a huge downfall in the heavyweight the way he's doing that.
It could be
detrimental.
The thing is, Carl, the reason he might be putting weight on is because of the Chisora fight. Because Chisora bullied him.
Yeah.
And he had no answers for it because he couldn't take the extra weight Chisora was putting on him. Because that's Chisora's style, isn't it? He leans on you all night long, drains you, don't let you get away. And maybe he's thinking that he needs to be a bit heavier to be able to not get pushed about all night long, not get bullied in the ring.
You take the point though, Andy, that he's going to lose so much of his game by doing that. I worry for him. I'll be honest.
I do see your point, and there is a very good chance Joshua could wipe him out, but I think Usyk's just a little bit too good for that. He's not big at this weight, and that's why he's putting the weight on, in my opinion. He's got a lot more skill than people give him credit for. He was awful against Chisora, awful, and he'll learn from that. He's lucky to come away with that fight without a loss. He'll learn from that, and he'll be a completely different fighter against Joshua. He'll be because he knows he's got to be. He probably went into that fight with Chisora and thought, I've only got to turn up to win here. Chisora's just a gatekeeper. I'm much better skilled. And he found out very quickly that's not how it works at heavyweight. You know, he'll be on his mark, mate. He'll be bang on the money. Yeah, he'll be a little bit slower because he's put the weight on if that's the way he's going to go. But I agree with Mark. I don't see this as a one-way thing. There's a lot of questions for Joshua to answer. He don't like fighting smaller guys.
Who wins, Andy?
I think Joshua wins, but it isn't one-sided, and I can make an argument that Joshua doesn't win. I can make an argument that Usyk walks out of that fight as champion. We've all said it 1,000,001 times. Joshua doesn't like long fights. He tires. His jab becomes really poor. It's not snappy. It becomes a bit lazy later rounds because that Joshua style of being tight and being able to move and even throwing decent inside, he loses all that later on in the fight because his shot is blown. And that's for me, that's where Usyk takes over, and that's where he wins his rounds. So if it goes to points, there's a good argument Usyk wins on points.
That's a big possibility. That is a big possibility.
I'm worried that Usyk's a slow starter in the heavyweights. I think he's a slow
You know what?
starter.
I think because of that Chisora fight, I think we're going to see something different from Usyk. I think he took it too lightly. I think he was going in there expecting something more than it was going to be, and I think he was just, he got let know what heavyweight's all about. He got bullied around really easy. But you're saying that he's lumping on the weight. You're watching his social media, and he's just lumping on that weight so that he doesn't get bullied. But that can be dangerous too, because does he lump it on too fast? Does he do it not right? There's a lot of things that can happen. There's a lot of factors.
See, if I was Usyk, I'd be wanting plenty of movement, surely, to tire Joshua out and make him miss.
Am I also right in thinking that he's taken back on Lomachenko Senior?
He always has Lomachenko Senior for his big fights.
He always has him for his big fights.
For the big fights, yeah.
Because he hasn't had him for the last few.
Yeah, because they weren't like big. So like he had him for the Bellew fight, and he had him for the Undisputed fight,
right?
And when he's first won world titles, because Anatoly Lomachenko only trains his son. That's it, and then he trains the amateur Ukraine national team. But he's got, because he brought up Alexander Gavorkic, who was the WBC light heavyweight champion, obviously his son, and Usyk through the amateur system. He has his hand in all three. And what he said for Usyk was, for your big fights, I'll be your head coach. So yeah, he's brought him on, but he'll make some difference, because Anatoly Lomachenko is a very, very good coach. He's a very, very good coach. But I don't think Usyk's going to be busy enough during the rounds to win this fight. He's going to have to rely on his counter-punching ability in this particular fight against AJ, because he's not going to dominate Anthony Joshua early. Yes, we're all right in saying that Anthony Joshua's at his best when he's most explosive early on in the fight. That's just because of his huge muscle build. You can't be that built and be a 12-round fighter because of all the oxygen his muscles take. But bearing in mind, he is a small fighter, Andy. Look what he did with Dillian White on the inside with that uppercut. I can see him doing that against someone like Usyk. If Usyk, yeah, I can.
And he came back and beat Ruiz Jr. It was boring, but the game plan worked, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah, but he was scared to engage with Ruiz in that second fight.
I thought that was disappointing.
Though he kept him at bay quite easily, didn't he? That size of an opponent, jab. So
you can't compare Ruiz to
I'm not necessarily comparing
movement though.
Well, no, what I'm saying is though, you say he struggled with little people. Well, we gave you two examples where he found the key to the treasure.
He didn't attack him,
but he still beat him convincingly. For me, so I just don't. I can't see how Usyk's going to keep him off. That's my.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I think sometimes we're a little bit too harsh on Anthony Joshua.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next subject, which is close to our hearts in Nottingham, Mike. Close to our hearts.
Okay.
We know you've been starved for world champions over in Canada, but we may be having a new one soon.
Okay, let's hear it.
So Nottingham's finest, Leigh Wood versus Zhu Can. So I think it's only fair that we go to Leigh Wood's biggest fan, and we'll let him kick this one off.
Pride of Nottingham. Leigh Wood walks straight through Zhu Can. Zhu Can throws a lot of punches, and early on I can see him winning rounds, but Leigh Wood's going to get to him. And Leigh Wood's got a lot more boxing skill than people give him credit for.
Friend of the show, remember, Andy?
Has he fought at this level? Sorry,
friend of the show.
Absolutely. Has he fought at this level? He'll probably say himself he hasn't. But then again, Zhu Can's never fought anyone like Leigh Wood. I'm not sure this Zhu Can's as good as people give him credit for.
Let's hope not.
If you look at his resume, It's not all that. Leigh Woods is adopting a slightly different style as well. Still boxing, still using his boxing skills, but is sitting down a bit more on his shots. He's punching a lot harder. Ben Davison's come out and said, pound for pound, Leigh Woods the hardest puncher he's ever taken on the pads, and that's a statement and off. Can Zhu take Leigh's power? That's going to be the question for me in this fight, and the answer from me is no, he can't, and Leigh stops him. Round 9.
Right, okay. Clear prediction there from Andy. Come on then, Raimondo. Let's have the view from the northeast.
Yeah, I've seen Zhu or Kanzu, whichever way around it is. I've seen him box a couple of times. His last fight against Manu Robales, and he fought a Japanese boy called Shun Kubo over in China. He stopped him in the 6th. He's not powerful at all. This Zhu. He's not powerful at all, but he is very accurate. He's pretty good at cutting off the ring. He can stay at the pocket, and he survives there because he does throw a lot of punches. He doesn't waste any shots at all. He likes a body. He likes a body punch. But what I noticed is he's got a decent defense. He's got a decent defense, but he's money punching to be the lead right hand. It's almost like you walk you into the inside and just throw that lead right hand. I don't think you'd be catching Leigh Wood with a shot like that. People talk about Leigh's never fought at a level like this, but Leigh's a bit too smart to be caught off a lead right hand on the inside like that. Leigh can box, and he can bang. He can pretty much master both styles. And I think just by looking at styles, I would favour Leigh's style to just be a bit too much for Zhu Can. Sorry, later on in the fight, I think Zhu Can will start fast, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was winning the early rounds. But I think Leigh will catch up with him, and Leigh will get him, and I think Leigh will be physically too strong for him. So Leigh stops him, and I'm going to go for round 11.
Right, okay, so that's a view from the northeast in the UK. Now let's go over to North America. So I'm not sure how much Leigh Wood's known in Canada, Mike. You may be known a lot more next Saturday. But what's your thoughts?
I know a little bit about Leigh Wood. I know the kid's got a chin. I know he's got power. I know he can bang with the best of them. If cannot do. He ain't gonna do crap. I don't think he has. I don't think he has the chin nor the body to stand up to the punishment that Wood is gonna deal him. And you know what? Honestly, I'm gonna call it early stoppage. I'm gonna say by the 4th.
Wow.
I'm gonna say by the 4th round. I think Wood is too much for him. I think he's gonna come out banging right off the hop. I think he's gonna take that right hand to the chin, no problem. And I think he's gonna dish it back. And I think Can is gonna be done. He's not gonna be able to put up with it. I think he's just gonna get eaten alive.
Wow. Well, I hope you're right, Mike. I really do hope you're right.
Honestly, I like Wood, man. I rate Wood. I rate him as a boxer big time. I like his chin. He's got a chin, and he's got the ability to throw and bang, and that's what I love, man. I love those grinders that get in there, aren't afraid to get hit, but can take it and dish it and really dish it. And I think Wood can dish it out to him.
It's from Nottingham, Mike, so it's bound to be tough.
Oh, if he's from Nottingham, he's a bad boy.
You've got it, Mike. You've got it. So I obviously being a Nottingham lad, I'm praying that Leigh Wood lifts his belt next Saturday. Very strange to have him on at 7 p.m. like that's being rumoured. Yeah. So potentially he could be the first UK fighter to fight live on DAZN in the UK, which not great 7 p.m. but I'm sure he'll take that accolade. I've watched some Kanzu or Zhu. I've watched him on YouTube. 18 wins, 3 knockouts. I think Leigh Wood will like to have a feel of the power in them first couple of rounds, see what it's all about. And then I think Leigh will start sitting down on his shots and look to work the body. it's going to go some rounds. This fight is for me because it's going to be a bit of a war for me.
Okay.
So I'm going to go Leigh Wood. I fancy him about. I'm going to go round 9. I think me and Andy will be drinking beer by about round 9 of this fight. Maybe me and Andy probably won't even bother watching the rest of the show if Leigh Wood wins.
I think if Leigh is on first, and he destroys him like we're hoping he is, I think me and Paul might go down the pub.
Yeah, because it'll be celebration time in Nottingham, and Leigh, you know, bringing them fights back to Nottingham. Wow, you know, I'm not a Nottingham Forest fan. I'm not a Notts Forest fan, as Andy will know, but I'd be buying my ticket for the City Ground. I'll even listen to Mulligan Tyre. You know, Andy, can you imagine the City Ground full?
Oh, mate, it's going to be absolutely rocking.
Especially if you get a kid.
I'll put this in as well. There's never been a fight at the City Ground.
No.
Even the Warrior Froch never got to fight there. He wanted to. It never happened. There's a much better chance of Leigh Wood fighting there. He's got a lot of connection with the club. They love him over there.
Can you imagine Warrington bring the Leeds lot down?
Leeds against Forest. Jeez.
Oh. Mike, you can only dream of having these sort of atmospheres in Canada. You can only dream about it.
So
I know. I can only dream, brother. I can only dream. So I'm just gonna live it through your eyes. So you guys better make sure when you hit those pubs, you video call me so that I can be drinking beer with you guys when that win happens. Right?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. The fight goes the way that we want it to. How do you, or where do you see Leigh's next step after this? I mean, because what you need to think about is there's also another all-British world title fight in the same weight.
Yeah.
On the next Fight Camp show.
I think he fancies Dickens, doesn't he? He fancies Dickens.
He wants revenge on Dickens, I think.
Yeah.
He has also a lot of experience with Galahad from his time spent at the Ingle gym. They sparred hundreds of rounds. They know each other inside out. That'd be a really interesting fight because of how well they know each other.
I mean, Andy, these boxers are from massive fighting towns, aren't they? Sheffield, Liverpool, Leeds.
Yeah.
You know, to have Nottingham in that mix, it'll be fireworks. It'll be a bit tasty. Don't get me wrong, but bring any of them. I think Leigh. I'd like to think that Eddie Hearn would get him City Ground, wouldn't you? You'd like to think so.
At some point or another, whether he could do it for that unification or not, because that might be City Ground might not be quite big enough to hold that, you know. So we've had a comment in the sidebar from PB. Does Dickens have a chance, lads, versus Kid Galahad? Do you want to answer this one, Ray?
Kid Galahad wins that fight. Kid Galahad, he's beaten before. That was several years ago on the Channel 5 show.
Don't you think Dickens has improved a lot since then?
Yeah, but his styles all Kid Galahad styles all wrong for Jazza Dickens.
I think Galahad beat Warrington. I think he beat Warrington, and I think he beats Dickens.
Kid Galahad's a very, very good switch hitter, and he's a very, very good boxer. He's a very clever counter puncher. He didn't throw a lot of shots in the Warrington fight, and that's why I gave that to Warrington. But had he stepped up the gears, Kid Galahad, he could have won that fight comfortably.
He didn't do enough in that fight for me either.
That was his only problem. He's very underrated. He's very, very skillful. I could see him setting traps for Jazza Dickens all night.
He didn't want a rematch, though, did he, Warrington? Didn't want none of that, did he?
No. And people say, it was a boring fight, it was a dull fight. And people call Kid Galahad awkward. He's not awkward, he's skillful. He's very tricky. And I think, although Dickens has improved, I agree. And obviously, he beat Leigh Wood, but I don't think he's still. For me, it's a bit like what I've said about Fowler. My way of judging improvement is let's see how he does against Galahad again, because he's not faced that style since. He's not faced a Kid Galahad fighter style since then for us to see that yardstick of how he's improved. Put him against Kid Gallagher. I think Kid Gallagher could probably stop him again.
You'll see a comment from PBA regarding where he thinks the Leigh Wood fight is going. He also says that Leigh Wood's popular in Birmingham as well, which is nice to hear. But he's a Nottingham lad, though, PB. Don't, you know, a bit
what
like...
he says here is anyone with Manny Rubal as a third on their resume, like Kanzu, I raise the old eyebrow. But yeah, I would go for Leigh Wood round 10, so he's going around later than what I would say. But yeah, I think Leigh Wood, as much as you could argue Leigh Wood hasn't faced anyone like him, he's not faced anyone like Leigh Wood, is what Andy stated there earlier before.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what's really frustrating for me though, lads. I don't think this will bother Leigh Wood one little bit because he's no drama queen.
No.
But why the hell is this world title fight potentially first on the bill?
It doesn't make a difference to me either.
What? It's first on the bill?
It's first on the bill apparently, mate. 7
First
o'clock.
First on the live TV. Yeah, Eddie Ernest said in another.
Mike's reaction there tells you absolutely everything you need to know.
Yeah, I'm not saying I agree with it, Andy, but Eddie Ernest said he's done it because he wants to launch his own with a bang. By obviously a world title fight, so that's his reasoning behind it. Whether you agree with it or not,
I think honestly,
more time to celebrate.
I don't even know what to say to that. That's
to me. That's Eddie Ernst spinning a situation. The problem is this fight was made late, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and the top of the bill, and the undercard was already announced.
Okay.
So he's probably had no choice but to put it on
exactly
where he's put it on. But I mean, come on, if you're on that bill and this is a world title fight, you're not going to have no complaints that's right up there. Not necessarily taking Ben's spot, but at least one fight below Ben. For me, this is going to be the fight of the night.
Definitely.
And I'm a huge Ben fan. I think it's really exciting. But obviously, I'm a little bit biased because it's Leigh Wood.
I'm not particularly bothered, Andy, because it gives me more time to drink more beer and celebrate the win. So you know,
you got a point there.
And to be fair, I know it. I hear what you're saying about it. The last slot is always normally the big finale. But as long as he gets his arm lifted, I don't care when he fights.
Yeah. It doesn't make a difference to me.
He'll have his time in the starlight when he's at the City Ground. So yeah. I'm not.
It's the same card with the Conor Ben fight, right?
Yeah.
So what? I guess the Conor Ben fight is going to be the main.
Yeah.
Is that what's supposed to be happening?
Yeah, I've got the list here. It's going to go.
Mate, yeah.
It's going to go Leigh Wood fight, then the Fowler fight, then the Bill and Smith fight, then the Conor Ben fight. That's what Eddie Earn's given as the order. So, you know, it is what it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is. What it is. It's interesting. It's a different play on the way it should be. I guess we'll kind of see how it plays out, man.
Well, this coming Thursday, we'll do a proper review of this card.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's Leigh Wood. Good luck, Leigh, from all the last bell guys. Bring it back to Nottingham. I'm sure. I think you will. So it could be celebration time in Nottingham, Andrew.
It's definitely going to be celebration time in Nottingham.
Oh, you know what? I'm guaranteeing it. I'm guaranteeing you guys are going to be drinking beer very shortly after that card starts.
Yeah. So, moving on to the last topic. Ray, I believe you wanted to bring up Crawford. So, over to you, Raymondo.
Yeah, just a little bit on the news with Crawford and the proposition for him to fight Sean Porter, which I think it's a mouth-watering clash. It really is. It really brings to life, or would bring to life, Crawford's, in my opinion, quite weak resume at 147. he's up against a still respectable, very solid welterweight who's not past it, or perhaps doesn't come too soon for. We'll give him a proper fight. Sean Porter lies down for no one. We're seeing against Errol Spence. You guys know very well he gave Kell Brook, even though Kell Brook won that fight comfortably, in my opinion, he still gave him quite a tough fight. Well, Kell Brook went over in America and won the world title. Won the IBF belt. So I think this is going to be a very good fight. Should have come off. And should that be his last fight at Top Rank before he goes to PBC? What way to bow out?
For me, finally, Crawford's fighting someone with some stature.
Oh yes.
You know what I don't understand? I think everyone in the world agrees with this, that Crawford's right up there with the pound for pounds. But he's got no presence in the boxing world. No one really knows who he is apart from real boxing fans. And with someone the skill that Crawford's got, he should be right up there. Yeah. He should be known all over America, an arsehole name, and he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, who was he with? Top Rank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've done a shocking job promoting him. Shocking. Yeah. I mean, if he's leaving him, I'm not surprised.
His contract runs out in October, and I think by November he'll sign with PBC. I
just get the feeling that in America, it don't happen over here because we've got the best promoter in the world.
Yeah.
Who promotes his fighters properly.
Definitely.
In America, I just get the feeling the promoters go, well, here's your contract, here's all your money. Now go and promote yourself. You need to be the motor mouth. You need to be the guy calling everybody out and making all the big shouts. Kind of a bit like Lopez does.
Yeah.
Lopez is a great self-promoter. And he's going to be a massive name because of it. Whereas Crawford's not that sort of guy to go shooting his mouth off at people here, there, and everywhere. And that in America, for whatever reason, means he don't get pushed. His profile don't get pushed. And it shouldn't be about that. It should be about how skillful that and how good the fighter is that your profile gets pushed. But that's down to the promoters to do that. And they don't seem to do it in America. They don't seem to follow the same path that UK promoters do.
Oh, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
Just a comment coming there. Interesting from PB. PB, if you want to come on and air your views about Kell Brook, mate, you're more than welcome. It says Kell Brook let himself down. He could still be doing great things at 147. He decided to go get his face caved in against Gennady Golovkin, middleweight. I'm sure he regrets that, as let's be fair, it ended his career sadly. I'm not too sure if I agree with that in a sense that nobody wanted to fight Kell Brook at welterweight. No, he was avoided. I know for a fine fact he put feelers out there for the other champions. Nobody wanted any piece of him. So I think he thought, well, I'm getting offered, was it 5 or 7 million to fight Golovkin? Why not? Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
I agree with a little bit with what PB is saying, because that was the end of Kell Brook. He was never the same fighter, mate. He wasn't the same fighter when we went down to watch him at Sheffield.
Yeah. He wasn't, but he got well paid. And in boxing, you're in there to fight the best fights.
Yeah, but
nobody wanted to fight him at 147. So what does he do? Does he hang around? Does he hang around and fight mandatories? Because no one was giving him the unification fight. So
it's not the right call to do what he did, is it?
But then
it was a poor decision to step up. I know.
Then the argument is, but who's he fought as who's he fight as IBF champion? Because nobody else wants to fight him. You know, he's fighting people
I
like
get what you're saying, Ray, and I don't disagree with you. But if you're going to step up, don't go against a monster like Triple G.
No.
Yeah, the truth is,
if you want to step up and try yourself at that weight, go against the other world champions. Don't put yourself in there against that the man that is as hard as anybody else.
At that time, Khan versus Brook was still a big fight. So if Khan would have come to the table, you probably would have fought Khan.
Khan was never gonna. That fight was never gonna take place.
But
and
I'm talking from a money fight. From a money fight, that would have been in and around the money he got for Triple G, though, right? Commercially,
yeah, but it would never have happened. That's the reason why he stepped up.
Brook would have took it.
Just to let you know, PB, conflict's what this show's all about. It's all about.
I'm not. The point I'm making.
Exactly what we're here for, mate. Keep putting your comments in because it gives us some really good stuff to talk about.
Right. So the point I'm making was that it's not Brook who's not wanting these fights. It's these fights. These fighters aren't wanting to fight Cal Brook. So Amir Khan was never really serious, in my opinion, about fighting Cal Brook, and this is the problem. So I think part of it is, I mean, don't get me wrong, Dominic Ingles always said before the fight and after the fight that he shouldn't have, that Brook shouldn't have taken the Golovkin fight. So I see where you boys are coming from. My opinion is that, well, he probably thought, well, you know, I'm going to earn a lot of money out of it. No one else is going to fight me. This will do well for me legacy. And I'm going to say it, in the first couple of rounds, I thought Cal Brook was doing mightily well.
Yeah, it's definitely. So did I.
So,
he's going to, though, isn't he? He's going to be quicker for the first couple of rounds until Golovkin feels him out and realises what's going on, and then realises that he can take anything that Cal Brook's thrown at him and walk through it. And then it becomes a very dangerous fight. And then you saw what happened to Cal Brook.
Yeah, we saw that. But like I said, we can't have it both ways. We can't sit here and talk about Crawford not taking big fights because Crawford stepped up as well from lightweight. You can't talk about boxers not taking big fights and then kind of criticise them when they do, albeit it's out of the weight class. So I think you can't have it both ways. He took a big fight. He took a risk. That's what boxing's about. At least he dared to be great. He didn't just sit in a comfort zone.
It's okay taking
respect him for that. It's
okay taking risks though, Ray, but they've got to be calculated. That wasn't a calculated risk. He took that fight. You're right in what you say. He was getting frustrated and sick and tired of not getting world championship fights, world level fights in the weight division he was in. So he steps up, and let's have it right. If the figures are right, that are you saying what he got paid? That's what he stepped up for. He stepped up last minute and took the fight that he shouldn't have took, and he took it for the money.
Definitely.
He also took it because it was Golovkin. He took it for the name, and he rolled the dice, and it didn't work out for him. For me, Eddie Hearn normally does a really good job protecting his fighters and putting them in the right fights at the right time. That was a shocking decision because it ruined Brook's career.
One thing I would say, though, Andy, is Eddie Hearn has come out and says with Cal Brook's ill discipline, it did cut certain avenues off in terms of fighters. So maybe if Cal Brook was a little bit more disciplined during his career, he may well have been able to go other avenues.
You know about him ballooning up in between fights, Carl?
Yeah.
And other stuff that he was getting himself into, believe you and me. But I think as well is that fight could have turned out. I mean, it's boxing; anything could happen. But it's a bit of a you can sit here. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, we can all sit here and say it ruined his career. Yeah, but at the time, I could see the pull and the lure for taking that fight. So I've got to congratulate him for doing that. He showed bottle.
Ray, do you think Khan should have fought Brook?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
absolutely.
when would you want to see it?
That fight could have taken place about 3 or 4 times over the years, Carl. When it was first mooted in 2010.
That's when it took place.
2011, 2012. It was still a decent fight in 2013. There's loads of times that fight. You know, in fact, when he did that thing, whatever, in the jungle, that for me was probably the last year that fight could have taken place. So I'll have to ask the missus when he was in the jungle,
Yeah.
because I went to his job.
Don't pretend you ain't got it on video, Ray. Get the old VHS out, lad.
Well,
Get the old VHS out.
the Khan fight never happened because Khan was chasing Mayweather.
No,
Well, Mayweather,
because he knew that if he lost to Brook, he wouldn't be able to show his face in England again.
I
but
believe that.
Mike, that theory goes out the window, in my opinion, because when Mayweather had been and gone,
Yeah,
there was still talk of this fight,
yeah.
and Khan still never.
I think it was absolutely
Well, see,
Shakespeare.
I'm just going by what some of the things in the headlines are today about Khan talking about why that fight didn't take place then, and why he thinks it's still relevant today. But
Yeah, I think
it should have happened a long time ago.
I think as Carl Froch said on the little video that I sent over to Raymondo, which I'm sure he enjoyed, it would have done funny things to Amir Khan mentally if he would have lost that fight against Brook. That's the truth of it. And
what you got to realise, Mike, you perhaps don't know this, but the proximity of Brook's hometown and Amir Khan's hometown,
Okay,
they're really close.
okay.
There's a few mountains separating them.
Yeah.
That would have made a massive fight for the UK. Massive fight, right? Both world champions at the time. It would have been a great fight.
To draw an equivalent with Canada. No, I'll scrap that one. No,
Yes, scrap it. It's okay. We don't have world champs. It's cool.
on this one, Eric's gonna turn up.
Hey, I gave him the link. I told him to come. He said he was going to. I don't know. Maybe you need to come on and talk some more crap to him.
Yes. So, too late now for Khan and Brook, correct? Far too late.
Too late. It's gone.
Too late. It's not relevant.
So PB has said Khan was already fragile mentally. I think he lost to Brook back then. Would be bad news.
I think he's saying if. I think if he had lost to Khan to Brook back then, yeah, you're probably right. It's a shame because there were parts when I thought Amir Khan would beat Kell Brook. I know when they used to spar as amateurs, Kell Brook couldn't cope with Amir Khan, but I think what War said.
Ray, that begs a question. So why, if that's the case, why not jump in with Brook?
That's what my whole argument has been. Why not? Because we know what he did to Kell Brook in the amateurs, what he was doing sparring with him. So why not take it? But
because quite clearly, Ray, Kell Brook moved on 1,000,000 times. He become 1,000,000 times the fighter. I mean, you've said it yourself. He was such an underrated boxer. His timing was impeccable.
And timing beats speed.
And that's what would have won in the fight.
Yeah, the timing beats speed. I completely agree with Andy. And his backhand got better and better and better, Kell Brook. I mean, I remember when he fought Kevin McIntyre for the British, and he went up to Scotland and he was getting some awful abuse from the Scots. Lots of racial abuse, and he just took it in his stride and he dismantled them. Yeah, it's Kevin McIntyre and stuff, but his punch selection was beautiful. I mean, every single shot he was throwing out the book from all sorts of different angles. There'll become a point in the fight as the years gone by, it become more and more obvious that that's how that fight with Khan would go.
Yeah.
But earlier on, like I said, 2010, 2011, you could see Khan just outboxing him, and he just didn't want to take the fight. Why? We'll never know. And the other thing about Amir Khan is he gives too many different excuses for it. First one, Brook never had a world title. He hasn't fought anyone, and then it went from, well, he's not making enough money, or he wants too much money, or it's just too many different excuses. Where Kell Brook always consistently said, "Offer it to me, and I'll sign." That's the difference for me.
And that's going to hurt Khan's legacy into massively.
Yeah, Amir Khan isn't going to be asked about being a unified champion at 140. Winning Olympic silver medalist at 17. They're not going to ask him about those fights. They're going to ask him about why he didn't fight Kell Brook, and that's going to chew it away at him. So he's cut his nose off to spite his face.
So PB's put a comment in. Amir Khan and Matthew only UK boxers to give Canelo issues. How weird is that?
Matthew Hatton. Well, if he replaces Matthew Hatton with Liam Smith,
I was about to say that.
But I mean, Amir Khan did outbox Canelo, but then he got caught. But
No, he didn't
Liam
get caught.
Smith,
He fell into a trap, Ray.
Yeah, he got absolutely wild.
He wanted a flash shot. He fell into Canelo's trap.
yeah, but he got caught. I mean, the way I saw it is he was outboxing Canelo, but Canelo was always targeting his body. Yeah, and it reminded me a bit of when Chavez Senior fought Meldrick Taylor in that famous fight. People thought Meldrick Taylor was running away from that fight. Yeah, he was outboxing him, he was moving, he was on the back foot. What people didn't realize is when Chavez got Meldrick Taylor on the inside, he was doing damage to Meldrick Taylor. Just those single body shots downstairs, and this is why people say you got 4 body shots because it pays dividends later on. What happened against the Khan fight was, like you're saying, Andy, he set that trap, he targeted his body. Khan slowed right down by round 3, round 4. He started to be really slow on his feet. Once Khan's a static target, he drops his left hand, which he did because he threw a feint, got Khan to drop his hands, and he went straight in over the top, and that was it. That was it. Like, you knew as soon as Canelo pulled back on the right hand, it would land on Khan, and then that would be the end of Khan, and that's what it was. But Liam Smith gave Canelo some different things to think about because he took the fight to Canelo. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. He was that boxing. He was that Mexican in the Mexican, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. I'm not too sure about Matthew Hatton. I thought Canelo was.
I thought he played with him, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought Canelo found that a bit easy because that's
Matthew Hatton did really well to last that though, didn't he?
Pardon?
He did really well to last that fight.
He did, but wasn't that Canelo's first world title? Am I remembering that rightly?
I'm not sure actually.
I think that was his first world title, the WBC at he won that as a vacant. I'm sure it was. Or it was for a silver. Mike, have a little look on box
right now for Marty.
What we'll finish off with, boys, is Eddie Hearn trotted out a few rumours on his weekly interview with you know who. So he talked about Dillian Whyte on this interview. So in terms of the next opponent for Dillian Whyte, and it's possibly on the Canelo card, he's talking about, and I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this, he's talking about Trevor Bryant.
What?
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that one?
To be honest, they did say on the end of his interview for his last fight, they were joking about him fighting an easier opponent, so I was half expecting it. I kind of thought that the Ruiz fight would never really come off. I thought it was going to be somebody else, somebody Franklin. They were talking about him fighting some guy called Franklin, and we even talk about him fighting Charles Martin.
Well, Charles Martin's been shooting his mouth off on social media about it.
Yeah.
He's trying to create that fight. He needs to be careful what he wishes for, Charles Martin.
Were you guys talking? You were talking about the vacant WBC for Canelo?
Yeah.
When he won that, it was against Luciano Cuello.
Right.
Was that his first world title?
Well, that was the first vacant title that he fought for. The first title that he grabbed was the WBA Federcento welter title, and that was against Gabriel Martinez.
What did he fight Matthew Hatton for then?
Just give me one sec. Oh, Matthew Hatton, that was for the vacant WBC World Super title. That was back in 2011.
Right. So was that not his first world title?
It was. Well, yeah, it was one of the world titles, but yeah, that was his first world title.
Yeah. I thought so.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the Dillian Whyte point.
It's a gimme fight for me. You know, I'm not saying he don't deserve it because he's had a tough trot. But everything I've seen of Trevor Bryant, it's a no from me. Whyte will just.
You know, the problem is though, Cole. Dillian Whyte said it himself. He struggles getting up for these fights.
Yeah.
this could end up being a fight that makes Dillian White look awful. If he don't train hard enough, if he's not focused, which is, he'll admit he sometimes gets when he's not scared of a fighter, when he's not got worries about a fighter.
Difficult one though, isn't it? Because where do you put him then?
Well, I mean, I've said it myself that if anybody deserves a gimme fight, it's Dillian White, because he's fought everybody and beat everybody that's been put in front of him. I mean, the guy should have fought for the WBC world title 2 years ago.
Yes.
You know, and it's absolutely criminal that never happened. It's criminal that it still hasn't happened, and I think Tyson Fury's even gone on record as to say he's never going to fight him.
I think you're right, Andy.
So where does that leave him? He's still number one contender. Yep. He's still number one, but he gets overlooked, and they put other people in place like Dominic Brazil. I mean, why did he get that world title shot?
But who do you, with the world title fights being announced as they are for August 28th or September 11th, whenever he comes out, you can see why Earn's struggling, can't you? Because who do you throw him in them with them? Well, you don't want an opponent that's going to be who is not going to take it seriously. But also on the flip side, you don't want him to jump in with a killer. No. If he gets beat, forget about that world title shot even more.
Yeah. So it's hard. It's hard no matter what you do, because on one hand we're saying, yeah, give him an easier fight. He deserves it for everything he's done over the last 2 or 3 years. But then we're thinking, well, that's a bit underwhelming. I can't really be bothered with that. And then there's an argument that he don't get up for the fight and makes it difficult for himself.
Yeah. So PB again. Bryant gives me the both of vibe from the 1990s. A game guy, but we know what's going to happen, don't we? So, interesting, Dillian White. Very difficult scenario with Dillian White, isn't it? It's a difficult time of his career.
I tell you what, if you can say anyone's got the patience of a saint, it's Dillian White.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So what's Earn playing at, Ananda? Because Earn, is a man. So why has he not got him? What's happening?
Quite clearly, the WBC don't want to work with Earn, do they? That's very obvious. It's very obvious that because it never happened with Dillian White against Wilder. It's not.
You'd have him in court. You would have him in court then, wouldn't you? That's what Wilder did.
Well, he should have, but clearly he hasn't because it never happened. So Dillian White needs to be questioning what's going off. Why is he not priority? Why is it? Why is Eddie Earn not doing as much for him as he's doing for Joshua?
I know I've said what I've said about Dillian White, but he has come up the hard way. So it's not that I don't respect him, because it's like you've said, he's fought everyone in front of him. And I respect that he's come up the hard way. When he first appeared on Matchroom, he was getting paid peanuts.
Let's have it right. Let's have it right. When he got his clock cleaned by Joshua, could you see anything coming of him then? Could you see? Could you see a man that gets himself into a mandatory position and is mandatory for over 2 years long? I couldn't see that from that Joshua fight. All I saw was a very angry man getting in a ring, losing his marbles and getting laid out. He didn't look like a contender to me at that point. Yeah. He's worked so hard to get himself into that position. And he's gained a lot of respect from the British boxing fans off the back of it as well. He deserves a world title shot. He deserves all the plaudits he gets. Unfortunately, he's not a golden boy, is he?
No.
And because of that, he's probably never going to get a world title shot.
I don't think so. If it hasn't happened in 2 years, what's going to make them do it today?
But it's just a strange
tough for him, isn't it?
It's just a strange scenario that Finkel can get Wilder back in the ring with Fiore by going through the legal system. Yet Dillian White sits there for 2 years, and Earn don't, flex his muscles.
Completely agree, mate.
When you dig underneath that, there's got to be a reason.
Of course he has. Yeah, and he just hasn't worked hard enough for him, has it? That's the way it looks from the outside, anyway. Dillian White will be able to tell you honestly, but Dillian White's not scared to be putting his point of view across. If he didn't think Eddie Hearn was doing enough for him, he'd have said.
He's called him out in a couple of meetings, a couple of post-fight interviews, though, hasn't he? Saying, "Over to you now, Eddie. Get me the world title shot."
He's never gone as far as to say, "Why are you not doing enough for me? Why have you not got this world title shot? Why have you not taken it to court? I'm mandatory for 2 years long. Why am I not getting the shot when other people come in and skip above me and get the world title shot instead?"
Yeah. I mean, some of them who have fought for that title, it's an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace.
Stubborn never should have got that second shot. Dominic Brazil never should have got the shot.
I don't understand the Brazil one. Yeah, it's just very strange.
Awful.
Another rumour that he trotted out was Fowler was going to be fighting Sam Eggington at fight camp, but Eggington's crew pulled him out of the fight.
Really?
How interesting that. And when he was pressed on, was it Enniseh? He wouldn't say who it was, but surely if you're Sam Eggington, and you're offered the chance to get back on the Sky platform.
How much notice did Eggington get?
He don't go into that, so I wouldn't be able to say. But I just thought it was a very strange decision because Eggington's well renowned for keeping himself fit in the gym, isn't he? So, even if it was a couple of weeks ago, I know 4 or 5 weeks notice isn't great, but like Eddie Hearn says, you have to keep yourself ready, don't you, for that phone call. So,
what do you think about that one, Ray?
I don't think that was a good fight for Eggington. I could probably see why they're trying to rebuild Eggington from used to be a journeyman. He got a couple of opportunities, and you could argue he won that fight against Cheeseman.
Absolutely,
I think that's the problem.
I don't think that's
problem because they see him now as probably somebody who can do something. See, I still think he's at that level or below. So I think they're probably trying to keep him for an opportunity for something like the British title, or even put him in with somebody at middleweight. Probably try and get the Eubank fight for him or something like that. I think they think they can do something with Eggington, whereas I think, no disrespect to him, but I think he's about done. I think he's at the level he's at now, and he doesn't get any better. I know he won a WBC silver middleweight belt, but for me, it's just a belt that gets in the rankings. I think Fowler, and I'm not a massive Fowler fan, but I think Fowler walks through Eggington. They have a shootout, and Fowler absolutely destroys him. So I can see why they don't want that fight for him.
Okay. Anything you want to bring up, Mark? Anything you want to debate?
Honestly, I want to invite you guys to join me tomorrow.
Are you picking up the T-shirt, Mike?
Oh, I'm picking it up, brother. I'm picking it up. Yeah, I can't see. Can you put it a little closer for me? I can't read it. It looks like it says Canada.
No. You want to get back to school, then, fella, and learn to read.
Guys, tomorrow I'm being joined by terrible Tim Witherspoon. Also, Cash Ali will be joining us tomorrow.
Oh, okay, Cash Ali. Right.
So, gentlemen, I'm inviting you right now to come join us on the panel. If you guys have some questions you have for Cash, Mr. Mike Tyson 2, the biter.
Yeah.
If you guys want to talk to him, find out some stuff, yeah, please, honestly, join me for this.
No worries. Just on a final point, just what Andy, who friend of the show out in the boxing world, says think Crawford v Porter will give us a great yardstick if he is a great. Andy is right, not promoted at all. Trouble is his personality does not come across. I think we would all agree with that point there. It's a great, great observation, Andy.
I mean, you told me the last. Sorry to get on me American promoter soapbox here, but I'm going to go there anyway. I think American promoters are seriously in the doldrums at the minute. Tell me the last good job they did regarding profile at any of them. Wilder talks himself. Fury, who managed by Top Rank, is a good talker. But when it comes to the likes of Taylor and Crawford, who need a bit of help in that department, where are they?
They're expecting that whole social media craze. They want them all this self-promotion. That's what they're banking on these guys to do. But who has time to self-promote when you're in that gym training your ass off?
Ryan Garcia.
There you go. Ryan Garcia is another one that does it. He does it. He does train his ass off, and he does self-promote.
Instagram, blah, blah, blah.
It's Insta, yeah. Insta this, Insta that, Insta.
But I'll use Crawford as an example. No doubt he's a great fighter, but he bores me. I don't know nothing about the fella. There's no story behind him. Eddie Hearn builds a narrative. So Joshua, we all know Joshua's life journey. That he's come from nothing to the Olympics to the world title. Eddie Hearn does a. I mean, I know he's got a bit to go in Matchroom America, but in the UK, he was the best at promoting the fighters. We all knew the story. Then you've got all the associated programs like Toe to Toe and such like on Sky. So we got to understand not only the fighter but the person. So, and then bringing me on to the production shows. Me and Andy sat up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, drinking strong coffee like Imran. Stay awake because TV production in America is absolutely shite.
It's shocking.
No atmosphere. No, normally in small stadium, or they can't fill the stadium. What is it all about? America used to be the razzmatazz, didn't it, with the Tyson days?
See, this is exactly. We talked about this before, and like I told you, these tickets that are being sold to these matches in the American, the American side of boxing, it's all the corporate, man. It's not the true fans. You're not going to see true fans at these sitting ringside and sitting in these stands, and because they don't need these guys. The stadiums are small. The atmosphere is small. It's not big. It's not a production like you guys put on in the UK.
So that's why, Mike. That's why when the Americans come over to the UK, they're in awe. They're in awe.
Yes.
Part of the pun. They're in awe of the stadium and the atmosphere. A lot of them have gone on record as saying it, haven't they? Spence couldn't believe the atmosphere at Bramall Lane because they've never witnessed it before.
No.
I would argue there's more atmosphere in our weigh-ins than there is in Fight Night in America.
I'm 100% with that one. There is way more excitement in a weigh-in than in watching some of these fights.
I just think American boxing fans are being shortchanged, and they might not agree with me, but
no, they are.
You think
it's because the ticket prices are astronomical. To get in to see these fights, the regular fan can afford it, man. That's why it's being sold out to all these big corporate, corporations, and they're doing business deals and all this kind of crap sitting ringside, man. They don't give a shit who wins.
Yeah, and I've said it on other platforms. If I was sat there as an American fan, I'd be worried that the zone is starting to put fights on more of a global time zone rather than a North American time zone. That's worrying because. The American fans like to think they're the be-all and end-all of boxing. Well, I'm afraid, apart from one division in America, the stranglehold they've got on boxing's gone.
Yeah. Cole, you say that. You say one division, but they're not even fighting each other.
Exactly.
So it's not. That division don't really count because they won't fight each other.
See, what I hate about watching these fights take place in America is we never get to see the whole card. You never get to see the whole card.
What's all that about, Mike?
You only ever get to see 2 fights. You don't ever get to know who these up and comers are because you never get to see the bottom of the card ever, unless you have a way to stream it or you're at the event. but it
Yeah.
sucks. It sucks.
I tell you what, there's been a massive. There was a massive thing made of Sky Sports and Top Rank having this fantastic deal, and Sky Sports were going to show all the Top Rank's fights. So we've had free fight cards. How many fights do we see on each fight card, lads?
Yeah.
One fight. Or two fights on each card.
And it's just not acceptable in the UK, Andy, is it?
No, it's not, mate.
It's a bit like how Channel 5 used to do it. Well, how Channel 5 do it.
Yeah. They don't turn on till 10 o'clock at night, and you get to see
The main fight.
The main fight, and if that main fight finishes quickly, they'll show you one of the undercard fights.
Yeah, and
They don't even do that here. Yeah. They don't even do that for the American broadcast now. Fight's over, thing's done. Forget it.
So how are American boxers supposed to build a fan base? How are they supposed to build a following?
By promoting themselves on social media. They've now left it in the hands of the fighter to promote themselves.
And you wonder why.
There's tons of talent here, in North America that goes unseen, that will always be unseen. And it's because of the way the promoters are doing their fighters.
Is it possible that these fighters are just not hungry enough?
No.
To want to be that big name? Because the likes of Errol Spence, they get that much money from the contracts. Do they really care if they've got a name?
Probably not.
They're hungry enough. You would never have seen anyone from the Four Kings era acting that way, and they become gigantic names because they fought everybody. Mm-hmm. And they weren't scared about losing. They weren't protecting that O. They went in against everybody to see if they were the best, because that's all they cared about. Am I the best?
Yeah.
Let me go and prove it.
Yep.
That don't happen anymore because these fighters are so scared about protecting that O. And the different broadcasters and the different promotion companies, they're so scared about protecting the fighters' O. It's disgraceful, really. It's ruining boxing.
I mean, another thing. I'll say before we bring it to a close. American fans often throw it at me that, we get 70,000 gates in Texas. Well, the majority of them actually come across the border from Mexico. I just think it's a culture thing where American boxing fans would rather sit in their armchair rather than go along to the stadium. I think that's a massive problem, to be honest. But yeah. Right then, guys, we'll bring it to an end there. So, another great show. Thank you for all the comments on the side. Thank you, PB. Thank you, David Fulton. We've got some big interviews landing on the channel at the weekend, so keep an eye out for them. Michael, thank you very much.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you very much. Andy, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll bring it to a close here. Have a good evening, everybody. See you next week, Thursday, 9 p.m. But keep an eye out for them interviews. Ta-ra.